Well, let's make a lot of noise for the voice of Goku. Sean Schemmel's walking up right behind
A bit of a jaunt over here. I had to take 2 boats, a golf cart, and getting over here is difficult. So thank you for making your way over from the autograph area to what's that?
Welcome to Toronto.
Thank you. I love Toronto. I try to come every year. Let me get organized here. I don't know what Tom was telling you, but other than when I just walked in, which is my name is Sean. I work in a show called Dragon Ball that you guys all seem to really like, and that makes me happy. And I'm best known as the voice of Goku, King Kai, and Nail on Dragon Ball Z, Super, pretty much everything that's been recorded on it I've done. And I also work on a lot of other shows. I just say this just in case you don't know. I work on shows like Ninja Turtles, well, the previous incarnation, and Pokemon, and Yu-Gi-Oh! And I was in God of War and Fallout, and I do a lot of voices for different shows. I'm just saying because people go, "You're Goku," and I'm like, "Yeah, I did 200 other voices also, just so in case you for other shows." I don't like to brag, but sometimes I'll say, "Were you in that show too?" And I'm like, "Oh yes, I was," which makes me happy because unlike some voice actors, which I respect and love, I don't want you to know it's me. Because I want you to be in the moment with the character. So if you're like, "Oh yeah, Sean, I can hear his voice," I'm like, "Thanks for the compliment, but if I was doing my job right, you wouldn't be thinking about me." So I really like it to where you're all involved with the character. Anyway, that's a brief intro of myself, and it's like my 7th year in a row at Toronto Fan Expo. But it's not 6. But 6. But before that, I took a couple of years off, and I've been here before. So I've been here numerous times. Toronto's one of my favorite cities. Anyways, everybody doing good? Having a good show here in Toronto? Good, yes. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. We're gonna do like open room panel. Yes. We got a roving mic, and we're gonna do it Donahue style. For those of you who know what Donahue is, this is Donahue, and she's gonna go in the audience. You guys have to be really old to get that reference. So we're gonna just do questions and talk it, and talk about whatever, and go. Yes.
Yeah, I'll start.
Oh yes, you're starting. Yes, sorry, I'm
you've
rambling.
been voicing Goku for a very long time.
20 years.
Yeah. What has been your favorite memory of doing?
Generally, moments like these are when I'm meeting fans, or it's not fun to be Goku when you're performing, and then unlike a play, people clap and you shake hands afterwards and meet people. It's gratifying to meet everyone who likes your work, and the best part I think is when you're just talking to somebody. I think my agent's here, and she's like, it just blows my mind that when you do a voice, how their face changes. Like, I'll be like talking, and I say, "Hello, it's King Kai here," and then they go, "What?" Or I go, "Hey, it's me, Goku," and they just, their faces change, no matter what the age, right? That's like a weird magic power, especially when it's the person who doesn't believe you're the voice of Goku, and then they do this face, they go, "Oh yeah, we'll do the voice," and they're like this, and then you do the voice, and they're like, and then they change into a 4-year-old, instantly from tough guy. So that's kind of a magic power I enjoy. So are you asking more? Oh, we have the first person, yes.
Hi, Sean. First of all, it's amazing to actually meet you.
Thank you.
You've been my childhood hero.
Thank you.
And I just want to really ask, what do you think of Goku? Has he evolved as a character over time, especially up to Super? It seems he's kind of different compared to the Z Goku. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it depends on which Z Goku you're referring to, because you're referring to the original dub that we did. The reason he's different is because we didn't. If you compare Goku to Z or Kai, is it Dragon Ball Z Kai?
It's Z.
Okay, because in Z, the Funimation had rewritten Goku to be very altruistic hero and a very a Saiyan warrior, and he's not. And I think Dragon Ball Super hasn't really the way Akira Toriyama had intended him, which he has gone on record as to say that he is not a proud Saiyan warrior. He likes fighting the strongest no matter what, almost to a fault, and he's not really trying to save the Earth, but he will if his friends are in danger. I always like to call him the Quagmire of Dragon Ball, except for ladies, it's for fighting. Because Quagmire is like, giggity, when Goku's like, there's a strong opponent, giggity. It's the same, he's a hound for fighting. And that has become very evident in Super, which is, I think, but Z was not written. I found, as an example, I found the whole "I am the hope of the universe" speech really uncomfortable. because the way I interpret the character is that that's a very egoic, a very, I wouldn't say narcissistic, but it's a very self-centered. Goku doesn't, I have always interpreted the character based on the name and based on what I read and how I studied the manga as a metaphor for the beginner's mind and the Zen Buddhist beginner's mind and always being in a childlike state. And Goku doesn't want to win to show you, like, I beat you. He just likes to win. He's like, okay, cool, that was fun. Maybe I can train you and we'll fight some more, because I like fighting. Like, he's like that. And that's what I always wanted. You know, I always want to honor, with all due respect to everyone in the room, I'm such a purist that the only person I care about making happy is Akira Toriyama. Because if I make him happy, and then you're not happy, that's not my problem, because he made this shit up. You know? And it's amazing shit, you know, it's really great. And so I'm like, well, I make him happy and you're not happy, I'm sorry, but I gotta follow that. Where it's just like, are you gonna call Akira Toriyama and go, hey, make Goku more like Vegeta? He's gonna be like, I made this up, leave me alone. I really I love the idea, and I think in his interview he said something like he always thought it would be interesting to have a character that likes fighting the strongest no matter what, versus a Jesus-like altruistic hero, which is typical of Western culture and American culture, and I guess Canadian culture by proxy, I don't know, because I know you guys don't like to be like the extra America, and you're very different. I'm a Canadianophile, massive Rush fan, massive Kids in the Hall fan, massive Letterkenny fan. There's a whole lot of things Canadian. Oh, I love Letterkenny. That's the best damn comedy on TV right now. You know, Letterkenny's amazing. And they have a new season coming out, so I'm really excited about that. So yeah, I get it. And so the difference is, as Goku growing as a character, if you're talking about in canon, I don't know that he does grow that much. If you're talking about like how we did those shows, a better question would be, has Goku, looking at it, watching, you know, as a Japanese person in Japanese language, has he grown and changed from Z to Super in that vernacular? Because that would be the purest original form of it. And I don't know that I can answer that question. In fact, I would beg to differ that anybody can answer that question unless you grew up in Japan, know Japanese really well as English, you know what I mean? Because people like to compare, and I just think it's really silly. Because I worked as an ADR director for 3 years, working on anime, and I directed a lot of different shows, and I even had a few favorite Japanese voice actors, but that doesn't mean I have any acumen or knowledge about how Japanese voice acting is good or not, you know what I mean? I don't speak Japanese, so it's silly to me when people get online and like, I like this better. I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about, but sure, you can like that better. Like, you know, you can like whatever you want. It's literally, it's worse than apples and oranges to me, because you're not comparing from, it'd be one thing if you're doing a show from Italian or Spanish or a Romance language in English, because they're very similar. But Japanese, Chinese, Asian languages are so much different than Western. Well, I would say Western, it's what's an Indo-European language chart? That would be Germanic, Goidelic. I'm trying to think of all the way I used to study languages, so I'm trying to remember what category the English, German, Italian, Romance languages versus Celtic languages, okay, sorry. I have a lot of things I like to read about, so I'm kind of a nerd in that regard. Anyway, to answer your question, yes, based on what they did, I would say the better answer is they wrote something for American audiences that they thought would be an altruistic hero. When we did Kai, and especially Super, Funimation said, well, we're gonna go full on Japanese meaning as best as possible with our English translations. And so there's definitely differences in there, and I can definitely hear those differences. And what's great is, because of that, I guess I would call it a mistake, but how things happened, you do end up getting a lot of interesting flavors of how Goku can be portrayed, which is really cool. You know, so I tend to be a purist and want like total consistency, but I can see the appeal of, you know, Z versus Kai. You can have this fun version that's for American audiences, so to speak, and then you have Kai, which we really try to do very pure. My answers tend to be long because I have horrible ADHD. Next question. Thank you. Yeah, hi, how's it going?
It's going well, Sean. How you doing?
Good. I'm in Toronto and I love being in Toronto.
So my question is, I do some acting, and one thing I realized is there's certain
voice.
things I find. Thank you. Yeah. So certain thing I find, like certain.
You even said thank you, handsome. Thank you. Yeah.
Definitely plugging myself to be a voice actor. But I was really curious when it comes to your portrayal of Goku, or if you want to span out to your other voice acting roles. What was the most difficult scene that you've done before? And
like for an emotional perspective or a vocal acrobatic perspective?
I'll say I think I can guess the vocal, so I'm going to say emotional.
Emotional perspective. Well, it's tricky because on the one hand, when you're acting, if the emotions aren't, subtlety is a lot harder to do than, you know, over the top generally. And one of the roles I had a really hard time with was I played Christian Bale voice match in Batman: The Dark Knight Rises video game for iPad. So I'm playing Batman and Bruce Wayne, trying to do my best Christian Bale impersonation, which had to be approved by Warner Brothers. And I got the Batman. I nailed that, I think, pretty close. But when you're voice acting, doing a very bland, I call it a hook. Like I meet some people who just talk very strangely and immediately I want to do their voices. And sometimes they get offended because I start copying it immediately and I'm not trying to make fun of them. But I'm like, well, you have such a cool voice, I want to copy it. And when you're trying, and usually somebody has a hook, whether it's an accent or texture or a very low voice or a very high voice, and it's just real easy to grab onto how to do that voice. But Christian did such a good job playing Bruce Wayne with, you know, blandness, just to be totally the opposite of Batman. There was no accent, because he's British, and so he just gets rid of his accent, and he didn't pick an American accent to do, like a New York accent or a Midwestern accent. And so I found it really challenging to do Bruce Wayne over Batman from a vocal and kind of emotional perspective. For that game comes to mind, just as an example. There's several others I can think of. There's some vocal acrobatics that are really hard. Believe it or not, playing this, a voice that was harder on my voice than Goku was playing Colonel Cossack in Thumb Wrestling Federation, where I played these thumbs that wrestle each other. And I played like 12 different thumbs. It was on Cartoon Network a few years ago. And Colonel Cossack was a Russian commentator. He had a little Cossack hat on, and they put googly eyes on thumbs. They had actual physical, you know, they videotaped guys' hands with. Which really, the one thing that bothered me about that is I really felt like the female wrestlers, because they had female wrestlers, should have been done by ladies' hands, and they didn't. And I'm like, you guys got to use a lady hand actress for the lady, because it looks weird. It doesn't make it, and they didn't do it. But he had to talk like this and scream, like much louder than this, like really loud, so I could only do an hour at a time, you know. And I'd say, is there any way we could like make this character not scream really every line? They go, no, it's just funny if he screams every line. I go, cool. I'm only recording an hour for a time, you know, at a time, because I can't. Normally I do 4 hours, you know, 12 hours, whatever. Dragon Ball used to do a lot of hours, but and that was really vocally, from a vocal acrobatic perspective, really difficult. But you're in a good town. If you want to do voice acting as an actor in Canada, you really got to get to Vancouver, because I know Toronto has some, but Vancouver's the hub for entertainment. And then other than that, you know, come to America and start stealing our jobs in LA. A lot of Canadian actors, they come and take some jobs in LA, and then they take some jobs in Canada, but I don't get to do that. So I'm trying to figure out how I can do that. So I can go take some jobs in Vancouver and then do some jobs in, no, I'm kidding, I don't. It's our government laws. It's our laws and your laws. It's none of my business, but I wish it was my business. Anyway, I hope that answers your question. So, that makes sense. Sorry, I get tangential.
Hello. So I know you voiced a lot of ghouls in Fallout 4. Have you played the game? And if so, what do you think about Fallout 76?
Fallout 7. I haven't played. Is Fallout 76 an online play with everybody game?
Yeah.
I hate those games. Here's why I hate those games. Because I love Skyrim. I played the shit out of Skyrim. I played so much Skyrim, and I played Fallout 4. I voiced Strong in Fallout 4. The Strong, your companion, follow you around. And I also voiced the ghouls. When I was playing Fallout 4, I would get Strong as my companion, and I would give him that battle axe you find from the comic book, and then I would get a powered up sledgehammer, and we would just go into a room and just smash everything. We're just smashing. I didn't even use any guns hardly ever. We'd just go smash all the time. And so I finished that game. I think I went with the elitists because at least they had the decent DNA. I was just thinking holistically about, okay, well, how's the Earth going to survive even though these guys are kind of fascist, but they have all the good tech and good DNA, so I let them win, but apparently there's other endings. I haven't played Fallout 76 yet. I was first real attracted to it because the reason I play online games is, how old are you?
13.
13, and I don't mean no offense to any little kids in here, but usually there's a 13-year-old asshole in the online game who, like, if I'm playing Dark Souls, has to kill me over and over. You know, like, get out of my game. Like, I'm trying to escape humans. So I come across as an extrovert. I've discovered lately that I might be an ambivert, and I play video games to escape other humans, or play co-op with my friends on the couch, maybe online co-op, but not in an arena-like setting where we have to kill a bunch of other assholes who are gonna taunt me or teabag me and do all kinds of assholey things and they're always better than me because I don't have 40 hours a week to get good at games, even though I've been playing them since they were invented. I'm like, I don't have the time to get really good to win at Overwatch. And when I'm in World of Warcraft, I want to be in a mystical, magical realm of elves. And so I used to play in the RPG realm, and I would like talk about my parents wanting me to be a dentist, but I wanted to be a druid from Teldrassil, and I would like talk to people like I was in character, you know, because I want to lose myself in the world. But people relegate it. If you create a fantasy world, everybody's just jumping around and saying stupid shit that like, you know, about our world that we live in, it just ruins the suspension of disbelief. Because I want to be inside a novel when I'm playing RPGs. That's the school I grew up in. So I know all the young kids love doing all the online stuff, and I can see the appeal. I definitely see the appeal. If I were a young person, I would probably be like, oh yeah, I'm getting with my friends. We're gonna do a raid. It's gonna be awesome. Yeah, yeah. And you know that would be really cool for me. But for me, I'm in Skyrim by myself, and there's no other actual humans around. I am happy. No offense to anybody in this room, but when I'm done at the end of the day, I want to disappear into I'll play a lot of Diablo 3. I play that game a lot. I like playing that game. And I always give my characters really funny names. Like I played a witch doctor and I named him Ooh, Ee, Ooh, Ah, Ah. And I show him, I go, look, I made my witch doctor Ooh, Ee, Ooh, Ah, Ah. And then my girlfriend made a witch doctor, said, make that one called Walla Walla Bing Bang. Make that one Walla Walla Bing Bang. And then I named my wizard Crispin because it's voiced by Crispin Freeman, who's a friend of mine. He's a voice actor. So when Crispin goes, as Crispin the wizard goes in, and he's doing his wizard thing. So I give all my characters really silly names. Some of them I'm not going to repeat because they're really. I named my barbarian because he's a barbarian. I'm trying to think of the other good names. I'm always proud of the names I give characters. Oh, I named my character in Skyrim Jesus because when he becomes a vampire and evil, and then you have my dad's a minister, so I have to make fun of. Sorry, I'm a PK. So we have this thing with religion where we have to make fun of it because we were forced to go to church every Sunday. So when you get those notes, then I'll say, we are looking for the scoundrel Jesus. So I did that so there'd be funny letters later, you know? It's like, when I was and then you're a vampire killing people, like, sorry, I gotta suck your blood, Jesus. It's kind of my thing now. So I'm always looking for the comedic element when I'm playing games. There's a lot of, it's so funny because I don't know if I should tell the story, but I don't know if you'll think it's funny, but because you kind of had to be there. So I was playing Doom 1 or 2 in the 90s on a 2800 baud modem with my friend Tori. The first time he and I had gone online. It's the first time I ever played a game online ever. And we're going through a dungeon, and I always try to stay in character in video games. I like to be in the game versus like, I am a person in 2019 in a game. And so I remember I would always plow ahead and just go crazy, and he would always hold back. And so I go in, and I found these 3 giant hell demons, or whatever, I forgot what they're called now. And then all I remember, he tells me all he remembers is me running by him, and because you can't talk to each other back in those days, you had to type all your messages. And I type in all caps, oh shit! Or I think I type, run! Or something, I just run past him, like, what? And we were terrified, like we were in Doom, and it was like, and now it's like, it's just blowing my mind how the games have come so far. And I think we're on the precipice of really great gaming because right now gaming is really, really good, and there's some AI, but once that AI starts getting perfected, you're gonna see some really weird, like it's gonna be like, you're gonna think you're playing a human, and it's not a human, you know? So I keep telling my friend Ralph, who's like this computer programmer genius guy, and I said, I want a head of you in my house that's an AI that I can just ask questions, because he's like really smart, and it has a mouth, and I do a bad impression of him. He goes, oh, you want a head of me in your room so you can ask me questions? Yeah, and it's connected to an AI, and then it tells me, I go, hey Ralph, tell me about quantum physics. Wow, let me tell you about that, right? And, you know, whatever, and he's like, yeah, you're a crazy person. And I go, well, I'm gonna do it someday, and it's gonna sound just like you. It's gonna be perfect. Anyway, I'm totally tangentializing. Who's next? Yes. One Punch Man, yes.
The great singing.
Oh, I can't tell. I just saw the head and then the dot, and I thought One Punch Man. There you go. Okay.
If you could gather the Dragon Balls, what would your wish be? And
to be Goku. No, that'd actually be a cool wish. Like, I've been playing Goku all these years. I think I just want to be him. You know, I'm sorry. Whoa, this is great. I'm hungry. That's the question? Yeah,
that's pretty much it.
That was part of it? Sorry, was there a two-parter? I interrupted you. Sorry.
I was going to ask you to grace us with a Kamehameha at the end.
Maybe. It depends on my voice is feeling. I've been talking all weekend. I like doing them, but I'm working on Super right now. I've got about 4 episodes left, and I have a heavy voice week next week, so I'm doing some video game DLC for several Dragon Ball games, but I'm not telling you which ones or what the kind of DLC is because I can't talk about it. Which I hate that because I don't even know how that affects sales. I'm like, God, they're still talking about Dragon Ball, they're still buying it, so what? I said something. Anyway, but they get upset. Yes, sir.
Okay, oh, sorry, got a loud voice. So I asked this question at you earlier. So,
Oh, yeah, we're
so,
at the
so
table, yeah.
two questions actually. One, who is a character in the Dragon Ball universe you wish you could play?
Bubbles. Seriously, Bubbles or Gregory. I love the little characters.
Okay.
Like my favorite character in Rick and Morty is Bird Person. I love that character.
So my other question is, if Goku, if Frieza had a needle.
Yes. Oh yeah, this is a good question.
Would Goku
So his
still-
question, he asked me at the table. Can I interrupt you? Sorry, because it's such a good question. He was like, "What if Frieza just shows up with a needle?" Because Goku's so afraid of needles. Like, because Goku's so, he's like, and then you said something like, this time I've come prepared. And then he goes, a needle, right? You know, and then what were you saying about for Frieza? You were saying...
At that counter Vegeta, he has a bucket of worms.
Yes, I didn't know Vegeta was fearful of worms.
He's
Is he?
terrified.
I did not know that. I was...
When they go inside Boo, he's absolutely terrified of them.
Yeah, I don't know. Chris would probably know that better than I. That's a great idea, though. Like to have him just with a needle.
It could have been how it should have ended.
Yeah, they could have just had how it should have ended. Could have been Goku being scared to just running because Frieza's got needles. You know.
What would Goku actually say if he saw Frieza with a needle?
Oh gosh, you know. Well, I remember when he first saw it, and he's like, needle, no! You know. But I wonder if Frieza. I wonder if he would be like. Yeah, I'm gonna set this one out. Vegeta, you want to go? I don't know how he would handle that. You know, he'd probably try to figure a way to break the needles or get rid of them, or you think he could just melt them with, ki energy or whatever. That's a good question. All right, next question. Thank you.
All right. I know you've said that you've also done some work in ADR and like 20 years of playing Goku. So I think.
I mean ADR, like meaning playing Goku is ADR. You mean as a director or?
Yeah, as an ADR director.
ADR director. Yes, I have. Yeah.
So I think the question I'm kind of getting towards is like when you are adapting something from a foreign language, what is the best process you have for basically conveying the original language's intent, but also balancing the sensibilities of the language that you're adapting to make something.
So here's how I write scripts. Actually, it took me a long time to get to this way, but then when I first started working for NYAV Post as an ADR director, I had this kind of mindset that I needed to localize the show and completely change it, similar to a Funimation did for Z, completely Americanize it. And sorry for my gunk in my birthday. And what I figured out was after I understood that, after doing it for a bit, that if a show is popular in Japan, show does well, it appeals to, it's going to transcend cultures and countries and boundaries, because that's, if it's popular there, you can make it popular there. However, there are some cultural things that don't translate well, such as humor, and I'm really particular about language. In fact, I often don't trust translators, because translators, it's rare that you get a translator who is good at both languages, but also poetic about both languages, meaning they understand Japanese and the nuances in Japanese so well that they can translate those nuances in an artistic, poetic way to a raw translation. And so what we do is we get like a lot of times on Super, I'm trying to think of a good line from Super, I'll have raw Japanese scripts in my booth, and they'll be translated into English very, very raw. And it'll be like 3 or 4 flaps and 3 or 4 words like, something like, you did good, go on, or something. And then in Japanese, it'll be a whole bunch more or something. And so we have to find a way to preserve that. So it's really important that the Japanese translation is either very, very pure and raw, or nuanced to where I can make it that way. So the way I do scripts, especially for dubbing, is I set up a microphone and I have a Japanese script, and then I'm reading the line, and then I look at the scene, and then what I do is I look at that and I just say, what would I naturally say that means the same thing, that fits this facial emotion, and I think the emotion of the scene is I've gleaned from this. And then I act it out and record it. I record the entire show. And then, because I can type fast, I go back and watch the show and type it up as I'm watching the show. And I stop every once in a while, and then I will, sometimes the first sentence I came up with, once you're editing, it doesn't sound good, and then I'll edit as I go. And I can usually do about a script a day doing this, which is industry fast, I think. I don't know, I think it's fast. But what that does is, is by acting it all out, it helps me flap it better for the actors who are going to play it. It also gives me a scratch track that I can use to show actors timing but not acting, because I don't want to tell the actors how to act from my acting. I just want to coach them and let them bring their stuff to the table versus copy my read, which is, I think, is the worst way to direct somebody ever. Because then you have one vision for every character versus every actor bringing their talent to the table, which makes my first show I did it the former way, and then the second show I did it the better way, and my shows got better, and I was less tired because I wasn't working as hard. So then when I'm done with that, I type all that up, and then that gets submitted for approval, and then we go and record. So I try to make it sound as conversational as possible, and that the emotion and nuances are there. But I will call Japanese translators sometimes and argue with them. I'm like, does it really mean this? And they'll say, well, the history of the word da 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 means this, and they'll try to explain it to me. But if they don't know, I'm like, well, sometimes I'll catch them and they don't know. I was working on this show called, not Berserk, it was Samurai Deeper Kyo. And in Samurai Deeper Kyo, there are two timelines. There's the original Japanese historical timeline that goes back to feudal Japan, which is supposed to be super accurate. And there's an alternate timeline with our mystical magical hero, Kyo, the Onime no Kyo, which is like a demon guy, right? And I was arguing with the translator because I'm like, this translation has to be super accurate because we're juxtaposing real historical information to fake historical information. I quit after the first volume of episodes because I couldn't work with the show because the translator they had was not giving me the answers I need, and they ended up boxing themselves into a corner and ended up being a mess by the end, even though the show turned out okay. But there was a problem where I was just like, I can't work with this if you can't give me accurate. I don't speak Japanese, I don't have time to learn the language right now. So that's how it went down. So there's a lot of weird things that happen. You know, when people get online and complain about things that seem obvious to fix in a dub, for example, we have a new trailer for Kakarot, right? And it's great. You notice it doesn't flap real well, and it doesn't flap real well, and this is not Namco Bandai's fault. We have production deadlines and crunches. They flap for the Japanese language, and then we send in our audio. We don't dub those cutscenes to picture. So we send them audio, and they tell us to make it a certain length, and then they try to make it fit. They don't have the budget or the time to reflap for every localization. Otherwise, they'd have to do it for Italian, French. So they flap the Japanese very well because they're making it for their language, and then when we localize it, we do the best we can to match it. People go, why does this not match up? Why is it? Because it's a big logistical nightmare that's expensive to do. Now, if I had my druthers, I'm like, spend the money, make it perfect. But I'm not the producer with the budget I got to worry about. So there's a lot of complex things that go into making localizing a show that can make things difficult or make mistakes happen that are harder to avoid than it might imagine. Like you might be going, that seems like a simple fix, and it's actually more complicated. That was a weird long answer. Sorry about that. Yes, hi. Sorry about what kept going on there.
What is your favorite Saiyan form?
I used to be, okay, so my thing is I love Goku in base form because that's how I connect to the character. In recent years, and I felt that way for 20 years, in recent years I've kind of gotten into God mode with the red hair, and Ultra Instinct. And I became a really big Gogeta fan after the Broly movie. I was not really into Gogeta before the Broly movie, but after the Broly movie I was just like, oh my god, that is the coolest thing ever. So I really dig me some Gogeta. I want the Gogeta new action figures, and I have a lot of Gokus. My girlfriend's like, I'm moving all your Gokus to the bathroom. This does not look like my living room. And she's a fan, but not of me, but of anime and of. No, I mean, she's. Well, I guess what I'm trying to say. Potential spam calling me. This is someone probably spoofing me. It's probably. Is it Chinese? Let's find out. Is it Chinese? Hello? So these are guys who keep spoofing me, who keep, they play a soundboard. You guys need to stop doing this. And what they do is because of all this controversy going around, they're hacking me, attacking me, swatting me, which is true, by the way. I was almost swatted. I have the recording from the police department to prove it. I just haven't released it yet because people keep making videos about everything I say. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to digress about that, but I thought that was kind of funny.
So of course, like Goku and Vegeta kind of have this ongoing rivalry going. But is there like a specific character that you enjoy interacting with the most in the show?
I'm thinking, because I was like, there's some scenes I really enjoyed a lot of my scenes. Well, it's gonna sound narcissistic. I love doing Goku and King Kai. especially for Battle of Gods, because I got to do this big long scene where they've got to do all the comedy, and that's really tricky to do. But other than that, I really enjoyed the scenes I had with Beerus, and of course I love all my scenes with Chris. They're amazing, and I really enjoyed the Kefla Khalifa fight. Those ladies really kicked some serious ass, and I was really super impressed. So that was a lot of fun. Historically, I really enjoy Krillin scenes. Goku's best friend. And I enjoy Bulma scenes. Anytime, usually comedy is what I tend to enjoy comedy the most. I mean, I like the epic battle stuff, but I'm a big comedy fan, so I love the comedy of Dragon Ball quite a bit. Who's next? Yes. Right next to him. Yeah.
Yesterday, when I got your autograph,
Yeah.
you said the line from Dragon Ball Super Broly, "Have fun, Frieza."
Oh yeah. That was ad-libbed, yeah.
How did that happen?
What happened was we saw the flaps move when they drop off Frieza to Broly's feet, and we had nothing in the script, and we just heard some Japanese noise that we couldn't quite understand, and so we just looked at each other and went, "Have fun, Frieza!" Because that looked like a perfect moment to say that, and we didn't have time to figure out what that was because we were under a major production crunch, and so and that all gets approved. We just did that, and we send that off to Toei Japan, and they're like, "Yes, we like it. Yes, we don't," or whatever. So they approve everything. That was just like a thing I think I came up with when I saw it. I don't know if Chris came up with it or I did, but sometimes we have special moments like that. We get lucky and have some fun. Yeah, where'd the mic go? Who's next? Oh.
Michael's died, but...
Oh, it has died? You don't have to stand up. It's all right.
Who's your least favorite character in Dragon Ball Z?
Oh, wait, who do I hate on that show? Who do I hate? What characters do I hate? Oh, I love Chris Sara's performance in the Broly movie as Frieza in particular. In fact, I think he's the MVP of that movie, if you really pay attention to the performance, because he did that with a serious heart and lung issue, and having to use like 4 or 5 bottles of oxygen in the booth just to record the movie. He has a COPD really badly, and we're feared for his life. And he's doing better now, but still he originally needed a heart-lung transplant, and I think they've downgraded it to just a heart transplant now. But for him to be able to do that work that well on oxygen, barely being able to, is unbelievable. But I never did enjoy, when we were doing Original Z, I never did enjoy no offense to Linda Chambers Young, but I never got into the Frieza character as much as everybody seemed to get that as a villain. In fact, when we did Resurrection F, I was like, oh, come on, we're doing Frieza again? But then I ended up liking it, so they know what they're doing, obviously. Because it's like, we're bringing somebody back, but with a twist, and then they always entertain. I'm talking about Toei, by the way. I never got into that. Yeah, it's a good question, though. Thank you. Where's the mic's gone? Who's next?
Mike's gone. We're still trying to get that fixed.
That's all right.
Raise your hand. Gentleman back there with the Captain America shirt.
I know that you're an avid French horn player.
I am.
And that you have a lot of hobbies like that. Do you still have time to keep up with that sort of stuff?
I do. I don't have a lot of time, but I've been getting ready because I'm getting older, and I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to play as I get older, because the French horn's a pretty physical instrument, although you can play into your 60s, 70s. But I'm thinking about posterity, so I bought a horn recently, a couple years ago, and I'm getting ready to record some Mozart concertos for posterity. This year, what I almost did at this panel, actually, was they scheduled me for 2 panels, and I didn't know why, because I never do 2 panels at a con, so I thought, well, for the second panel, I'm just going to bring my French horn and make it a French horn lecture. And that would be funny. I'll just bring it out and say, today we're going to talk about the history of the horn, and I'm going to demonstrate this instrument. We're not talking about Dragon Ball at all. But then I decided not to bring my horn because I have to carry all my prints, and bringing a horn is also extremely difficult internationally. So at some point I might start doing conventions with performing concerts, doing some Mozart concertos, or anybody. I had this fantasy about, tweeting, hey, if anybody plays the piano really good, learn this piece by the time I get to this con, and then we'll perform it, but I haven't really thought of doing that yet, so just a kind of an idea, a fantasy of mine. But yeah, I do have time. I play bass and guitar, and I write music, but it's usually, I play the horn now also to record for posterity, but also for my mind. I think reading music and doing stuff with your body like that is really good for preventing dementia as I get older, etc. I want to keep my mind sharp, This girl's going to go next after you're done with that guy, whoever has the mic, or yes, the pianist ball. And then we'll get this, you're dressed as Misty from Pokemon? What? Oh, sorry. It reminds me, because the hair reminds me of Misty. Sorry, Lilu, yes, that makes more sense. I'm really bad at figuring out cosplay, by the way. Yes, except for the squall guy, yes.
When you auditioned for Captain Genyu, how different was your take on Captain Genyu?
I don't remember that voice. I just remember Captain. I was probably copying the Canadian version really close because they asked us to do that. I don't even remember what I did. The guy ended up doing this, talk like this, it can't go Goku, he got a sense of being. I think it's how he used to talk. It was Dale Kelly used to play him. But yeah, it's close, I think. Yes, sorry.
To piggyback on the last question, what are your future endeavors?
Yes, I'm working with a company called Last Wolf Legion, Garrett Gunn, Franklin and Ghost, if you guys familiar with that comic book. I'm investing in that company to produce original animation based on his properties, because he's really creative and he's got a lot of cool stuff coming out. And I'm going to be playing, I think, Franklin in that, I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about it, in that animated series coming up. I don't think he'll care, but he and I have become friends recently, and I'm also working on, I'm working on something for Lego that I can't talk about, and I'm working on, I'm trying to think of anything else. I'm trying to be as vague as possible and answer the question, because we sign contracts that say, don't talk about this, so I can't say the name of it, and Lego's so broad that I don't think anybody's going to figure it out. What else is there? I got some DLC coming up for several Dragon Ball games, so I can't tell you which games. I got that coming up, and I'm trying to get more involved in producing original animation and steering the talent and the casting and the direction of that. I enjoy being a voice actor, but the industry has become something I'm a little disenchanted with, but I'll always play Goku. That's the thing, if I ever quit voice acting, it's like, I might quit voice acting, but I'll always play Goku. Because that's a special thing that means so much to everybody here, and so much to me, because everything I have I owe to Dragon Ball and Akira Toriyama Sensei. So it's a very special, this is my first audition, it's my first love, so as it were. Yes? Next.
We have 5 minutes left.
Oh, cool.
Is there a video game franchise that you would like to do the voice of that you haven't had a chance to yet?
Yeah, people ask me, I guess I should think that way more as an actor. I don't think about, I want to be in that, I want to be in that. Video game franchise, any video, well, okay. Video game work is not as fun as voice acting work for animation unless you're doing mocap on a stage with other actors, because it's usually you have stuff out of context, they don't show you video, you have all your lines in a row, and then the director's giving you context, and it's very disconnected, whereas when I'm working on a show, I usually have the other actors' lines of the script where I can at least hear their acting and I can get a better sense of it. And they do more cues an hour in voice acting for video games because we can get through it faster. So I'm doing 100 cues an hour. I work much harder on voice acting in video games, and usually they want me to be like a soldier that screams or a monster. Like in God of War, you know those trolls you meet at first, the ones that that's me speaking ancient Nordic, going or something like that. I don't know what it was, but that's me playing those trolls. I had to do that voice for 4 hours. Destroyed me. I didn't even get proper credit. So, I mean, I love those guys, but I'm less like, additional voices, I played that troll. Told them I played the troll. They knew I was gonna. So, yeah, I don't think about that, but because I don't enjoy video game work as much, although I love the games I've been in. But as far as an actor, I'd much rather be in a show. Oh yeah, I'm getting spoofed again. What they do is they spoof my number. These are people who don't like me, and then they harass me all the time because they think it's funny, but they're cowards and don't have the balls to just have a conversation with me. So, sorry, it's a little touchy subject for me, but these are people who are hackers and spammers who spam and spoof me constantly. So usually I answer and mess with them, but I don't know who Tiandra Sparks is. That's a fake name that they used yesterday when they were spamming me and spoofing me. It's annoying. Anyway, yes.
Our final question.
The final question.
Now that you're approaching the end of voicing Dragon Ball Super,
what's that?
As you're approaching the end of Super, what are your thoughts on Goku Black, and how did you approach that role?
Yeah, that's a good question. How I approached Goku Black the first time for the video game was I had nothing, so I just thought, what's the opposite of Goku's voice? And then I just did that. So that's why it sounded really low and guttural. But then when James Marsters played the voice of Zamasu, everything I did on the television show was based on what he was doing with Zamasu, because Goku Black is Zamasu inside Goku's body from a parallel universe. So if Zamasu is talking like this and doing this whole thing, then Goku Black has to do that, and that was a choice James Marsters made that I had to make because, and I think he did a great job, that they approved. So people are like, why did you do that? I go, because I'm copying that guy. If you pay attention to the show, Zamasu is this spirit. You got to think about the mechanics of how a show works, and we're always thinking about this in a lot of detail. I think that's what's funny is like, I certainly don't mind criticism, and I get that people want to do it, but I just want to let you guys know, we put agonizing thought into every decision we make. I agonized over Goku Black, and he kept changing the accent as we kept going, so I had to go back and re-record and try to make, because he was lessening it as we got into the show. And I'm like, how is this going to match? When Zamasu is talking to Goku Black, they need to sound like the same person fundamentally talking to themselves. And so that was the logic behind it. So people like, get involved in arms. I'm like, well, you're not really paying attention to the mechanics about how this works. And if you did, you'd find it very interesting, I hope. So that's how I approach the role, is making sure after every session that it would fit with the suspension of disbelief around these characters. So much so that even when I did fights with Goku Black versus Goku, I was trying to make Goku Black's, if you'll pay attention to the fighting, Goku's voice reactions are standard Goku voice reactions, and Goku Black's, you can hear, I was like trying to make it very bloodlusty and very like, versus, you know, like that. So when you hear him fighting, it doesn't sound like the exact same voice. It sounds like, you know, a bloodlusty evil person fighting our hero, right? And then, so I thought the scenes turned out, you know, really well, but, you know, everybody's got a subjective opinion. Everybody seems to like it, and I'm very proud of it. I'm really grateful. Every time I have a room that says this many people with it, I'm always astounded that anybody wants to listen to me talk for an hour. And I really appreciate it. I love coming to Canada. I love Toronto, and I can't wait to come back. And I'll be at my table, when am I going back? 2? I'll probably be there a little bit late because I'm going to take a small break, but slightly after 2. And then I'll be there off and on the rest of the day, and I'll be here tomorrow. And I look forward to meeting everybody. Thank you so much. You guys are awesome. Thank you. Love you.